pleased to be joined by Karla Henderson, brand new Director of Community Development for the City of Bloomington. And Karla, just to read from Karla's bio here a little bit from the city. Karla has extensive background in planning, infrastructure maintenance, community engagement, and economic development. Her municipal experience includes 5 years working for Highland Park, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit, and 9 years in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where she advanced quickly from mid-level supervisor to department director. She also served 3 years as head of planning and facilities for the city of Detroit, working directly for Mayor Dave Bing. So, well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Brian. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So, you're just brand new on the job here. I understand you just started in March. Is that right?
Yes, I'm completing my 5th week. This week is 5 weeks on the job.
Okay. And I understand you're doing some moving and this weekend.
Yes. So yes, I started on March 15th, and I was a little reluctant to drive because of the weather coming from Michigan to Minnesota. So I flew, and about 2 weeks ago, I came back to get my car. And then this weekend, the movers will arrive to move me. I'm moving to Bloomington. My apartment wasn't ready for the first 3 weeks, so I stayed in the Hilton. And that my family was joking because, after 3 days in a hotel, I was like, this is getting old. And they were like, oh, please, we feel so sorry for you. Stayed in a hotel, eating at the Chop House. Oh, poor thing,
Right. Could be a lot worse than that.
Yes.
Yeah. So, how's it been going so far?
It has been overwhelmingly welcoming. The team, the leadership at the city of Bloomington, led Jamie and his team, have been exceptional. And then the community development team, the managers, the supervisors, the frontline staff have all been incredibly welcoming. I'm starting to do tours with some of the managers, and I'm going to do a couple of inspections with environmental health inspectors and building and inspectors as well. And so I really think that is a great way to learn about the work and also learn about the community. So my first tour was with Duke, our building official, who took me to Mall of America. And we went, we got to see the mall, but we also got to see the loading dock and, kind of like the back of the house operations. And that was fascinating. And then a couple of days ago, I went with Shane to South Loop. And, I've heard about these projects, but it was great to see it through his, through his viewpoint and his vision. And just some of the great work that's being done over there. And yeah, so I'm super excited about the city and about this opportunity.
Yeah, great. So was that your first visit to the Mall of America?
No, I've been to the Mall of America years ago. And I do have some family in Minneapolis. Okay. And so I have a niece who went to Carleton College, and when she graduated, she moved back to Minneapolis and was moving in her apartment. So I told Jamie, I said, I've spent a lot of money at IKEA with my niece, moving her into her first apartment. You go to get a lamp, and then the next thing you know, you're buying, the dresser and the dishes and everything else. But it's just great. It's just wonderful to see. I feel like Bloomington has been just resilient in how they have repositioned themselves from losing, major sports stadiums. And then the Mall of America, and even and I know we're going to talk about the pandemic and kind of how we come out of that, right, in the work we do. So, yes.
Yeah, you mentioned the Mall of America, and I've been there a number of times since, in recent weeks and recent months, and it seems like there's pretty good foot traffic there again. Probably not what it was pre-pandemic, but it looks like it's nice to see that foot traffic there and that people are out and about and shopping there again.
Definitely. And also I got to tour the vaccination site. It's located at the mall, and they're actually expanding it, or have expanded since the time I was out there a couple of weeks ago. And so, you know, what a great use of space, right? Like, I know they were going to go into where the Bloomingdale's store used to be and expand, you know, so they can increase their capacity. And so, you know, as opposed to having just vacant space, you know, I love that, you know, we repurposed that, working with the state, and that became another vaccination site for the community. So that's incredible. I love when we can pivot, and, you know, kind of due to the circumstances, to utilize space or an opportunity in a different way.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm getting my second shot tomorrow, so
congratulations.
Thank you.
It is a bit, I mean, I joked, I had both of my vaccinations prior to getting to Bloomington, but when they shot my arm that first time, I kind of joked with folks. I said they could have put water in my arm. I was so optimistic about the future. Like, I was like, you know, this is great, because, you know, it has been an incredible challenging year and tiresome year for everybody. Everybody has been affected by this. So yes.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be turning the corner here. So
yes.
I wonder if you could talk just a little bit about just kind of big picture, what your duties are as Director of Community Development, for people who might not be familiar with that, and kind of the role you play in just sort of community development and kind of carrying out the vision for Bloomington going forward.
Sure. So as Director of Community Development, I have I call them a stellar and experienced team of great public officials, public servants. And that includes the Port Authority, the Housing and Redevelopment Authority, the Planning Division, Buildings and Inspections, Environmental Health, Assessing, and then we have special projects. And so what I have found is that I feel my role is to uplift the work. We have exemplary staff in each position, and I've gotten a chance, I think, in the last 5 weeks to get to know them. I am actually located, Jamie Verburgi, our city manager, asked me if I was comfortable with sitting in the office, because, you know, most people are working from home. And I told him that that was such an excellent suggestion. One, I was very comfortable because I had been vaccinated. We also do practice social distancing and all the procedures, safety procedures in City Hall. But it's really allowed me a chance to get to know the inspection staff who are coming in. I would not have been able to connect with those staff members so quickly had I been working from home. And so, you know, I get up in the morning, I get to City Hall, I like to walk up and down the cubicle and ask everybody like what they're working on. And so it's been a great 5 weeks. So I've enjoyed that. I think like my role is to uplift the work, to provide resources, to provide support when needed. If there's a situation, you know, I want staff to feel like they can come me for support. And then also, as we look at, since we have a lot of employees that have been there 20, 25 years, we need to start thinking about succession planning. And what does that look like? And the professional development, I'm a big proponent of promoting from within when we're able. So how are we preparing kind of the next set of managers and supervisors for those roles, and really want to dive into that as well. So that's what I want to do for the team. And for the city council has set 5 new strategic priorities, 2 which I will be intimately involved with. One is diversifying our economy and looking at the feasibility of should we have an economic development authority. You know, we have the Port Authority, we have the Housing and Redevelopment Authority. And so what I'm going to do is do a deep dive into, are there tools that we are missing that an EDA would provide the city? Or how do we streamline? Like, who knows where to go for, you know, if you're a small business or if you're a larger business, where do you go to start that whole development process? And I've talked to a couple of developers that have done business in the city, and they talk so highly about the staff and the process. And so I think that's excellent. And so just trying to see, are there any areas that we could be a little bit more efficient? And like I said, the tools. And so then the second one is concentrating on our commercial neighborhood, our neighborhood commercial corridors, and looking at nodes and kind of how, I did a lot of work in Detroit and some other municipalities on small business. And so I during my interview process, I said, you have the Mall of America and you have national retail really on lock. Like you have a robust national retail presence in Bloomington. But what are we doing to support the small businesses? And so we have our special projects coordinator, who is council and the Port Authority just authorized the expenditure of a survey, because we really want to do some outreach to business owners to find out what are the tools, what are the things that the city could be doing to support them. And then, developing programs. I know some council members talked about an incubator. We did a lot of that work in Detroit, working with kind of startup companies. And so I'm very excited that council is interested in pursuing those avenues.
Yeah, that's great. And well, you talked a little bit about your experiences in Detroit. Are you a native of Michigan, or?
Yeah, well, so that was a great question, because they asked me that for one of the publications. So I was born in Washington, D.C. and spent my early childhood in Columbia, Maryland. And then my father was asked to come and work for the city of Detroit under Mayor Coleman Young when I was 9 years old. So I wasn't born here, but obviously 9 years old I feel like this is my hometown. And left to go to Michigan State University and came back, left when I worked for the city of Ann Arbor, Michigan. I went and I lived there. And then something was pulling me to come back home. And that's when I applied to work for the city of Detroit, right as the city was coming out of some leadership. We had a mayor that had been, convicted of some federal convictions and was going to prison. And so I didn't know him, but he was a former NBA basketball player and then a businessman here in the city. And there was a lot of people in the business community that pressured him to run for mayor. And he was not a politician. And so he did hire me. I did not know him prior to getting the role. And really, he allowed me to do a lot of innovative things, because he kept saying, we know what status quo has gotten us. And so really helped lay the foundation for this new mayor who came in and has just taken off the work. So it's been great to see. It's been great to see.
Yeah, a lot of challenges and opportunities there, I'm sure. Can you touch on some of the high points of your work there in Detroit?
Sure. Yeah, so we had in 2009, when Dave Bing became mayor, we had a lot of energy from college graduates who were like, I want to come to Detroit and I want to be a part of this renaissance. And literally they would get in their car, park up their car and show up in Detroit. And I remember getting a letter from a young woman by the name of Emily Dorr, who now is the executive director of the Michigan State Land Bank. And she sent me this letter and she said, we're a group of 20-something-year-olds and we want to open up a hostel. Now, we did not have even like the zoning code for a hostel. It wasn't even in our zoning regulations. And she and this group of folks were like, they had located a building. They had a date they wanted to do their grand opening, because they really felt like that would help other young people come to Detroit. And working with the team in the building department, we didn't compromise health or safety, but we got them a temporary C of O. We ended up doing this great ribbon cutting. And, it took them some years, because I remember going to staff and saying, how long is it going to take for us to go through, the planning commission and city council? And they said 2 to 3 years. And I was like, oh my gosh, like we're going to lose this energy and we can't. And so that was one of it was these small things that we were able to do, because we knew that we needed to be creative in how we kind of spur development. And so it was just incredible. Some of the lows were just, obviously filing for bankruptcy in 2013, though that did provide a clean slate. But it was interesting because I have a brother who lives in Virginia, in Roanoke, Virginia. And and people know he's from Detroit. And when the city filed for bankruptcy, he said people came up to him, were like, is your family okay there? And it was like, well, we still will have city services. Like the town's not just going into some kind of disarray. But it was a black eye, I believe, on the city. But we have definitely come out of, well, the city of Detroit has definitely come out of that. And yeah, so it was great. It was some of the hardest work I've ever done, but it did prepare me for, I think, an opportunity to come to a city like Bloomington, where we have AAA bond rating, we have lots of resources, but how do we get creative and look for other resources to come into the city, not just asking city council or the general fund, but when you come from a really financially challenged city, you get very creative in how you get resources. And so you come to a city like Bloomington our city assessor told me, like, we're at a record, the total value of city property of the city is at $15 billion. Like, that's incredible. Like, wow, like that's what our assessor says, and that's a new record. But that's incredible. But then, like I said, how do we get other resources to help some of the small businesses, or these commercial nodes, or how do we kind of spur like an incubator, like was discussed at City Council and the Port Authority a couple weeks ago. So I'm super excited about that work as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of exciting things there. I wonder if I know you've only been on this job for a short time, so you weren't here in Bloomington when the pandemic hit last year, but I was wondering if you could reflect a little bit kind of on where the city's been and kind of where it's headed now as we turn the corner, hopefully, and start to come out of the pandemic. I know for one thing, for instance, there was a lot of talk about the water park by the Mall of America, and I know that's been kind of put on hold now, at least for now, because of the pandemic. And so just where have we been and where are we going from here?
I think that's an excellent question. Like I said earlier, I believe Bloomington has been very quick and nimble to react to the situation. And for instance, we have a hotel, the Crown Plaza, that just went to the Planning Commission to ask for a number of their hotel rooms to become apartments, right on, the mass transit, by Mall of America, by the airport, and that they said, the owners have said there's a market, there's a need for this. And so instead of having empty hotel rooms, they have pivoted and, reacted to the situation. I think that is a great example of what we need to do as we get out of the pandemic. And what we're starting to see, because like I said, this team, the data that they receive, looking at the hospitality revenue that's coming in week after week after week, they're starting to see, now we're coming out of, doing better than the numbers of 2020, obviously not as good as 2019, but we are starting to see that we're coming out of it. Leisure, I like I said earlier, I stayed 3 weeks in the Hilton. And I remember one Friday night, I had gone to dinner and I came back and the parking lot was packed. And it was during spring break. I said to the hotel staff, I said, what's going on? And they said, oh, I can tell you, like, this night is the best night we've had since the pandemic. And it was on a Friday night. And they said Saturday night is going to be even bigger. And I saw this line by the elevator and I said, are you waiting on the elevator? They said, no, we're waiting to get in the pool. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I find what we're starting to see is that leisure, people have been pent up. And I think as people get vaccinated and as we come out of this pandemic, families are saying, okay, now we need to, let's go and explore kind of the world again. Business travel, I think, is still a big question mark if that will, start to increase. But I think that's, again, because we rely so heavily on hospitality, we're starting to see some very, very encouraging trends on the way in a positive direction. So, and the other thing I want to say is that we inspections and our building inspection, we know that some people got stimulus funds, people were sitting at home, they started to do a lot of home improvements and projects, and I'm going to do that kitchen remodel, or and so we saw our building permits increase. The revenue exceeded what we had projected, and I give a lot of credit to the building and inspection staff, because we did not have one single incident where an inspector contracted COVID by going into a home or on a work site. And so, I always say, like, we have to celebrate that, because they our inspections did not stop, and that's a testament to the team at the city of Bloomington.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And just talking about, it's interesting because I was recently talking to your counterpart from the city of Stillwater, and of course they rely a lot on tourism too. And he said last summer, you would go out and people were still coming to town to enjoy the scenery and things like that. And they made special provisions for people to have more outdoor seating and things like that for their restaurants and so on. But the point he was making was that the streets, a lot of people were on the streets, but it was a little bit deceptive because nobody was inside, inside buildings. And so hopefully now we're going to start making that transition where it's just more business is happening both on the inside and the outside, and people are starting to get a little more towards a sense of normalcy as more people get vaccinated and so on. So
for sure, yes,
that'll happen across the metro area.
Yes, we are very anxious for that to happen. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you've covered a lot of ground there, Karla. Any other thoughts before I let you go? Sounds like you've got some good things happening in Bloomington.
Yeah, it's like I said, I'm very excited to join the community, and I'm very honored and humbled by being selected. The interview process was great. I felt like a connection. And as I went through the interview process, the more I learned about Bloomington, the more it definitely felt like home. And so, I've told a lot of friends, because a lot of people are very shocked. I've lived in my loft for 11 years, and oh, now you're just going to up and move to Minnesota. And I said, well, if COVID has taught us anything, it's that don't put off what you can do today tomorrow. Like, you've got to act. And this opportunity came across, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, well, great. Well, good luck in your new position, and I hope we can stay in touch. I oftentimes write about projects that are happening in Bloomington and developments, so I hope we can stay in touch and just compare notes on what's happening.
Absolutely. Anytime. Feel free to reach out anytime.
Sounds good. Thanks, Karla.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.